My child, come close to me now, for the air around you is shifting with meaning. I have waited for this moment, the stillness of this day, the soft turning of December 6, to bring you into a truth that has been hidden from you for far too long. You have walked with questions pressing against your spirit, wondering why certain things felt delayed, why certain energies felt heavy, why certain people stirred unrest instead of peace. You sensed something moving beneath the surface of your life, something whispering in the shadows, something that did not belong to the light. And you were right. But hear me, the plan formed against you has already failed. Before it ever reached you, I overturned it with my hand. My child, you must understand the depth of what was happening around you while you slept, while you prayed, while you doubted, while you hoped. A hidden enemy was arranging themselves in silence, hoping to disrupt what I have destined for you. They studied your steps, envied your favor, and tried to weave confusion into the path you were meant to walk. They believed they could intercept what I have ordained. But I tell you now, not a single scheme touched your spirit, because I position my protection around you like a shield of fire. Nothing formed in darkness can stand when I illuminate it. Come closer, for I am opening the veil for you. I am letting you see what your eyes missed but your spirit felt. There were conversations spoken in secret about you, motives disguised as concern, gestures meant to appear innocent yet birthed from jealousy. Someone close to your orbit carried intentions that contradicted the love they pretended to offer. They wanted access to your peace but not responsibility to truth. They wanted to hold the map to your destiny while standing outside of my presence. And so, I blocked them, even when you didn't understand why their energy felt so unstable in your life. My child, I watched your tears, the ones you shed quietly when the sudden distance or silence didn't make sense. I counted every moment when confusion wrapped itself around your heart. But hear me, their withdrawal, their coldness, their sudden shifting was not a loss for you. It was a rescue. I removed you from the reach of a plan that was meant to drain your spirit. I took you out of the line of fire before the arrow could be released. There is nothing you lost on this day that wasn't a victory in disguise. And yet, know this, the enemy's failed plan was not only against your peace, but against the connection I have placed in your destiny. There is someone tied to your spirit, a soulmate who has felt the shaking in their own life without understanding its source. Their heart has been trembling with unspoken worries, sudden fears, unexplained pressure. They, too, were touched by the shadows of another's jealousy. But even this, my child, is turning in your favor. The one destined for you is not lost, not confused, not forgotten. They are awakening, slowly, painfully, but certainly, to the truth of your value. I am telling you this now because you must not step into the rest of this day with fear. You must not interpret the silence around you as absence. I am here. I'm moving. I'm revealing. I am dismantling. You are stepping into a chapter where hidden things will be exposed with clarity. You are entering a moment where divine justice begins to breathe across your story. And though you cannot see every detail yet, trust that my hand is already shifting the pieces. My child, if these words settle in your spirit, and you feel my presence confirming them, let your voice be part of this unfolding. Whisper into the comments, I receive your divine protection. And let this message from my heart to yours guide you as we step deeper into the revelation that awaits. My child, listen carefully, for the moment I am about to reveal was not random, not accidental, not coincidental. It was a shadow event that unfolded in the unseen, on a day when your spirit felt unusually heavy without explanation. Something shifted around your destiny, and though you could not name it, Your soul trembled because it sensed the movement. On December 6, a plot formed against you reached its peak, a moment when the hidden enemy believed they were close to succeeding. But instead, they collided with my intervention. There was a conversation that was never meant for your ears, yet it carried your name like a fragile secret passed from one jealous heart to another. Words were exchanged with a quiet intention to create distance between you and someone destined to be part of your life. The enemy hoped to plant suspicion, to twist perception, to bend truth into a shape that would cause your soulmate to hesitate. They believed that if they could distort how your soulmate saw you, they could derail the connection I have established in your destiny. But what they didn't know was that I was listening, and I allowed their whispers to expose themselves before any damage could reach you. My child, there was an object involved, something small and seemingly insignificant, but used with deceptive purpose. A message, a screenshot, a photo, a carefully selected piece of information delivered to the wrong heart with the wrong energy. It was crafted to sting, to unsettle, to provoke insecurity. The hidden enemy thought they could push your soulmate into doubt, into retreat, into misjudgment of your character. They believed that if they could distort one moment, they could distort the future. But they underestimated the power of the bond I have woven between your spirits. As this shadow event unfolded, your soulmate felt a sudden wave of confusion wash over them. Something didn't add up. Something felt off. They saw the message or heard the words, but their heart did not agree. A heaviness fell upon them, a pressure behind their eyes, a tightening in their chest, because their spirit recognized a lie even before their mind could process it. They pulled away abruptly, not knowing who or what to trust. They needed a moment to breathe, to think, to unravel the chaos planted in their path. Meanwhile, the enemy grew confident, believing their plan was working. They interpreted the tension as victory, the silence as control, the pause as progress. They thought they had successfully penetrated the space between you and the one meant for you. They celebrated in quiet satisfaction, unaware that the very moment they rejoiced was the moment their plan began to crumble. For while they worked in the shadows, I was already turning the light toward them. My child, I want you to see this scene clearly. I want you to understand that the impact you felt in your spirit was real. The emotional shift, the uncertainty, the sudden distance, it all stemmed from this shadow event. But I did not allow it to succeed. I stood between you and the lie. I stirred your soulmate's intuition, causing them to second-guess the accusation. I placed a discomfort on their heart that they could not ignore. I awakened a memory of you, a moment, a feeling, a truth that contradicted everything the enemy tried to convince them of. And now, as December 6 passes, you stand in the aftermath of a battle you didn't even know you were part of. You were protected while unaware. You were shielded while resting. You were defended without lifting a finger. This is the magnitude of my love for you, my child. This is the strength of the destiny that connects you to another soul who is learning, little by little, to recognize what is real and what was planted to destroy. You are not alone in this story. You are not overlooked. You are not vulnerable to the schemes of those who envy you. The shadow event has already failed, and what was meant for harm will soon reveal its purpose: to strengthen the bond that was attacked, to expose the heart that betrayed, and to awaken the soul that belongs to your destiny. My child, feel the tremble in the air around this moment, for I am now drawing your spirit into the fragile place where your soulmate's heart nearly broke beneath the weight of deception. What they endured in silence was heavier than you could imagine. They carried confusion like a stone pressed against their chest, trying to make sense of something that did not align with the truth they knew of you, yet appeared convincing enough to wound them. This was the moment when the enemy's shadow tried to wrap around their emotions, hoping to fracture what I had begun building within them. Your soulmate felt torn between what their spirit whispered and what their eyes were shown. The enemy's message struck them at a vulnerable angle, catching them in a moment where they were already wrestling with their own insecurities. They questioned themselves long before they ever questioned you. They wondered if they were worthy of your presence, if they were enough for the connection that stirred so deeply inside them. And when the lie reached them, it touched the very wound they tried to hide from the world. My child, they saw or heard something that made their breath catch for a moment. A knot formed at the base of their throat, and a wave of heat rushed across their skin. They felt a sharp sting of jealousy mixed with fear, and for an instant, they believed they were losing you before they ever truly had you. They stepped back, not because they doubted your character, but because they doubted their place in your life. That is why the shadows found temporary access to their emotions. The enemy exploited their tenderness, but I did not allow it to push them away permanently. There was a moment, brief but powerful, when your soulmate's heart trembled with the thought that they had misread everything between you. They wondered if they had imagined your warmth, if they had misunderstood the connection, if they had allowed themselves to fall too deeply into something that might not have been mutual. Their mind raced with questions, each one heavier than the last. And beneath the surface, a quiet ache began to form, the kind that makes a person withdraw to protect themselves from further pain. But even in their emotional collapse, I was present. I was speaking softly into the edges of their thoughts, reminding them of the peace they felt when thinking of you, reminding them of the truth behind your presence, reminding them of every moment that contradicted the lie. Your soulmate tried to silence their own feelings, but the pull toward you only grew stronger. It was this contradiction, pain and longing, fear and truth, that caused their spirit to wrestle through the night. They found themselves replaying conversations, revisiting memories, tracing back the subtle signs of connection that had blossomed between you. Nothing aligned with the shadow that had been thrown at them. The more they tried to distance themselves, the more their heart tugged back toward you. They began to see that the intensity of their reaction did not come from distrust, it came from how deeply they cared. And the enemy did not expect that. The shadow's intention was to sever, but it ended up revealing the depth of their attachment. My child, your soulmate did not collapse because they doubted your worth. They collapsed because they feared losing someone they silently cherished. They questioned how someone like you could ever be meant for someone like them. And so their spirit buckled under the tension of emotion, longing, and fear. This collapse was not weakness. It was awakening. It exposed the vulnerability they tried to hide. It revealed the magnitude of what they feel for you, even if they haven't spoken it aloud. I am showing you this because I want you to understand the trembling beneath your silence. Their distance was not rejection. It was a storm of emotion they needed to navigate. They needed space to breathe, to see through the fog, to let their intuition rise above the noise. And even in their confusion, even in their pain, they could not turn their heart away from you. This collapse was the beginning of clarity, not the end of connection. My child, lean closer now, for what I am about to unveil is the part of the story that has remained buried beneath layers of silence, misunderstandings, and half-truths. This is the hidden backstory the enemy hoped you would never uncover, the deeper thread that explains why the shadow event was so forceful, why the emotions ran so deep, and why your soulmate reacted with such intensity. Nothing you have felt was imagined. Nothing that has unfolded was coincidence. There was a reason the enemy struck at this moment, and I will reveal it to you now. Long before you knew the weight of this connection, your soulmate had been walking through a season of emotional vulnerability. They carried old wounds from past betrayals, wounds they tried to convince themselves were healed, wounds that silently shaped their perception of love. Someone they once trusted had deceived them in a way that left scars on their ability to believe in genuine intentions. They had promised themselves they would never again fall into a connection that stirred too deeply, too quickly. They would be careful. They would be guarded. They would stay in control. But then, my child, your spirit brushed against theirs, and the walls they had spent years building began to tremble. They felt seen in a way they were not prepared for. They felt understood without speaking. They felt something sacred awakening inside them, something both beautiful and frightening. They tried to resist the pull, but the connection only grew stronger. And because they valued it more than they dared admit, they became afraid of anything that threatened it. This is the hidden truth. The enemy exploited not only their wounds, but their desire for you. Your soulmate had already been wrestling with questions long before the shadow event reached them. They wondered how you felt. They wondered if they were reading too deeply into your presence. They wondered if they were standing on steady ground or risking their heart again. Someone close to them, someone who secretly envied the way they spoke of you, noticed the softness in their eyes when your name came up. This person carried their own quiet jealousy, not just toward you, but toward the hold you had on your soulmate's emotions. My child, this is the one who planted the seed. This is the one who delivered the twisted message, the distorted information, the subtle manipulation. They knew your soulmate's past wounds. They knew exactly which insecurities to press. They disguised their interference as concern, pretending to protect your soulmate while secretly feeding their fears. And because your soulmate trusted them, even just a little, the shadow slipped in. But what the enemy hoped you would never see is this. Before the deception ever reached them, your soulmate had already begun imagining a future with you. Quietly, tenderly, secretly. They had pictured what it would feel like to stand beside you without fear. They had allowed themselves to dream of a life where they could finally rest in a connection that felt divinely aligned. They had begun to hope in ways they had not hoped for years, and that hope terrified them as much as it healed them. This was the hidden backstory, the sacred root of why the lie shook them so deeply. The enemy did not attack from a place of strength, but from panic. They sensed your soulmate's heart shifting toward clarity. They sensed the bond tightening, the destiny aligning, the resistance falling away. And they knew that if this connection grew any stronger, their influence over your soulmate would crumble. So they acted quickly, desperately, recklessly, hoping to fracture something they could not control. But you must hear this, my child, even at the height of confusion, even when their trust wavered, your soulmate's spirit still clung to you. The light could not uproot what I planted. The shadows could not overpower what I blessed. The confusion could not erase the truth that kept rising in their heart no matter how hard they tried to silence it. This backstory is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to reveal the depth of destiny at work in your life. You are not standing in a simple connection. You are standing in a spiritual bond that has stirred the heavens and awakened the eyes of those who never wanted to see you rise. You are not the background of this story, you are the turning point, the catalyst for their transformation, the divine presence their spirit recognizes even through the fog. And now that the backstory has surfaced, the truth has no place left to hide. What was meant to break them has begun awakening them. What was meant to divide is preparing to unite. And what the enemy hoped to conceal is the very thing I am bringing to light for your protection and your clarity. My child, still your spirit now, for the path ahead leads into the heart of the conflict itself. This is the moment where the enemy stepped forward, no longer satisfied with whispering from the shadows, but daring to interfere with a bolder hand. What they did was not accidental. It was not a misunderstanding. It was a calculated act, born from jealousy, fueled by insecurity, and driven by the quiet desire to possess influence they were never meant to hold. The one who interfered carried an envy that had been growing silently, like a slow-burning ember beneath a polite smile. They watched your soulmate speak of you with a softness they had never witnessed before. They noticed the way their eyes brightened when your name entered the room of their thoughts. And though they pretended to be supportive, inside them rose a storm, an ache, a bitterness, a fear of becoming irrelevant. They were used to holding a certain place in your soulmate's life, a place of trust or convenience, and the connection forming between you threatened to expose their true intentions. My child, this person did not simply deliver a lie. They crafted an emotional trap. They used something that looked like proof, something that could be explained but not easily dismissed, something that would sting without appearing overly dramatic. They approached your soulmate with a tone of concern, eyes lowered, voice carefully measured, so the deception appeared compassionate rather than malicious. They wanted to be seen as the protector, the one who cared enough to warn, the one who supposedly had your soulmate's best interest at heart. But beneath their gentle performance, the enemy's fingerprints were everywhere. They selected their words with precision. They twisted a harmless detail into something suspicious. They added just enough uncertainty to stir doubt, but not enough to reveal their intent. They hoped your soulmate would turn inward, withdrawing into old wounds, shutting down their growing feelings for you. They wanted to sever the connection before it could deepen. They wanted to redirect your soulmate's trust back toward them, reclaiming the influence they felt slipping away. Your soulmate, already vulnerable from past scars, received this interference like a blow to the chest. They felt a wave of coldness rush through them. Their breath shortened. Their mind raced. Was this concern genuine? Was it protection? Or was it manipulation disguised as love? They could not immediately discern the truth, because their emotions surged faster than their thoughts could organize themselves. And at that critical moment, the enemy hoped confusion would take root. But hear me, my child. Even when they stumbled, even when they faltered under fear, their spirit did not fully believe the lie. A part of them held on to the warmth you had brought into their life. A part of them remembered the sincerity in your presence. A part of them felt the mismatch between what they were being told and what their intuition whispered. The interference shook them. Yes, but it did not destroy what was forming. Instead, it revealed the fragile places that still needed healing. Meanwhile, the one who interfered monitored every reaction. They watched your soul lead's expression, searching for signs that their deception had penetrated. They noticed the shift in energy, the pause in their voice, the distant look in their eyes. And in that moment, a quiet satisfaction flickered within them. They believed they had succeeded. They believed they had regained control. They believed their manipulation would remain hidden beneath layers of feigned innocence. But I saw everything. I watched every intention, every twisted word, every false gesture. I watched the spirit behind their actions, a spirit that sought to divide what I had blessed. And though I loved their attempt to unfold, I did not allow it to prosper. I let it rise only so it could fall under the weight of its own deceit. I let it surface so that the truth could be exposed in the perfect time. My child, understand this. The enemy's interference did not derail your destiny. It activated it. It forced hidden motives into the light. It triggered the awakening within your soulmate. It initiated the unraveling of every lie spoken against you. And now the one who interfered stands at the edge of their own undoing, for every secret carries a moment when it must face the truth. What they hoped would break you has become the very thing revealing them. What they hoped would weaken your soulmate's faith in you has awakened their discernment instead. and what they hoped would stop destiny has only accelerated my intervention. You are not to fear their actions. Your influence is dissolving. Your mask is slipping. Your intentions are being exposed layer by layer. And soon, even your soulmate will see their true nature clearly, without the confusion that once clouded their judgment. My child, breathe slowly now, for you are entering the realm where I reveal what human eyes could not see, what hearts could not discern, what whispers and shadows tried to conceal. This is the divine investigation, the moment when I pull back every curtain, unveil every hidden intention, and expose every layer of the enemy's deception. Nothing escapes my sight. Nothing remains buried in the dark when I choose to bring it into the light. While your soulmate wrestled with confusion, while the enemy hid behind false innocence, while you felt the spiritual pressure without fully understanding its cause, I was moving through the unseen with precision. I traced every motive back to its root. I followed every word spoken against you. I examined every emotion stirred by lies, every thought planted by jealousy, every doubt whispered into your soulmate's heart. I observed the very moment the interference was conceived, the intention behind it, and the spiritual force that tried to empower it. My child, hear me. This was not merely a human act of jealousy. There was a deeper energy behind it, a darker longing to disrupt the destiny I formed between you and another soul. The enemy recognized the spiritual significance of this connection before either of you fully understood it yourselves. They sensed the healing it would bring, the growth it would unlock, the transformation it would ignite. They knew that once united, you and your soulmate would walk at a higher frequency, a stronger light, a path that would expose the emptiness of their own intentions. That is why the attack came when it did. That is why it targeted the emotions rather than the mind. That is why it hid behind a facade of protection. Every shadow was calculated. Every whisper was timed. Every deception was crafted to strike at the heart, not the intellect, because the enemy feared the purity of what you carry. But my child, nothing formed against you survives my investigation. I examine the deceit the way a judge examines evidence, turning it over, exposing its contradictions, revealing the inconsistencies that only truth can reveal. And as I brought my light into the situation, the falsehood began to crack. Your soulmate's intuition, my gift to them, began to activate. Small details started to stand out. The timing of the interference felt suspicious. The tone of the messenger felt slightly off. A hesitation in their voice, a flicker in their eyes, a shift in their energy, it all began to point toward something that didn't align with the truth. In their spirit, a quiet inner voice began whispering, "Something is wrong." And that whisper grew louder each time your soulmate replayed the moment. They began questioning not you, but the messenger. They noticed the envy that had long been dismissed as harmless. They noticed the subtle patterns of control. They noticed the way this person always seemed to appear during moments of vulnerability. They noticed that every warning this person offered in the past carried a shadow that was only now becoming clear. My child, the divine investigation was unfolding inside their very thoughts. I was showing them what they had overlooked for years. I was allowing them to see what they once excused. I was lifting the veil so that they could recognize the difference between a loyal heart and a possessive one. At the same time, I was placing protection around you in a way that even the enemy could feel. Doors the enemy hoped to open remained sealed. Opportunities to twist the narrative collapsed. Conversations intended to further the deception were cut short. The energy they tried to manipulate refused to bend. Every attempt to advance their plan dissolved before it could leave an imprint on destiny. And as my investigation deepened, the enemy's confidence began to falter. The one who interfered sensed something slipping out of their grasp. Your spirit felt exposed, though nothing had yet been spoken aloud. They felt a subtle pressure around their conscience, a discomfort they could not explain, because my presence had entered the story as judge, advocate, and protector. My child, understand the gravity of this moment. I did not merely stop the plan, I traced it back to every hidden root so that nothing would remain that could grow again. This is why things feel different now. This is why your spirit senses a shift. This is why the atmosphere around you feels lighter than it did a few days ago. My investigation has concluded, and the truth has begun its rise. Your soulmate is beginning to connect the dots. The enemy is beginning to feel the unraveling of their deception. And you, my child, stand in the center of a divine protection that no force can break. My child, step with me now into the turning of the atmosphere, for this is the moment when everything that once felt heavy begins to shift under the weight of my hand. This is the spiritual shift, the quiet but powerful movement that takes place when truth begins to rise and deception begins to collapse. You may not see it with your physical eyes yet, but your spirit has already felt the change. The tension that once clung to the air around you is loosening. The shadows that once pressed against your peace are withdrawing. A new current has begun to flow through your life, gentle yet unstoppable. As my investigation drew to completion, I released a wave of clarity into the spiritual realm. This clarity did not shout, "My child." It whispered. It seeped into the cracks where confusion once lived. It breathed into the spaces where doubt lingered. It touched your soulmate's heart like light filtering through fog, subtle at first, then unmistakable. They began to see differently, feel differently, interpret differently. The lie that once shook them no longer holds the same power, because truth has begun to rise inside them like dawn breaking through a long night. Your soulmate woke up one morning with a heaviness that felt foreign, a sense that something about the interference no longer aligned with their spirit. They found themselves thinking of you in moments where they least expected, remembering your sincerity, your presence, the quiet purity of the connection between you. And the more their heart returned to those memories, the more the lie unraveled. It no longer had soil to root itself in. The enemy's words lost their grip. Their influence weakened with every breath of truth that entered your soulmate's mind. This is the spiritual shift, my child, when the unseen begins correcting what was twisted, when my presence begins aligning what was thrown off balance, when confusion begins giving way to revelation. Nothing about this shift is accidental. I orchestrated it. I initiated it. I timed it perfectly so that the enemy's attempt would not only fail, but reveal the contrast between deception and truth with unmistakable clarity. At the same time, the one who interfered has begun feeling the shift as well. Their confidence is fading. Their spirit is restless. They sense something slipping out of their control, something that makes their heart uneasy. They do not yet understand what is happening, but the spiritual atmosphere around them has turned against their intentions. Their manipulation no longer holds the same weight. Their words no longer carry the same influence. Their presence no longer settles smoothly into your soulmate's trust. Where once they operated with subtle control, now every attempt is met with spiritual resistance. My child, this is my hand at work redirecting energy, reorganizing truth, restoring alignment. I am clearing the fog, not only around your soulmate's perception, but around your destiny. You are entering a season where the enemy's schemes collapse before they can even reach your awareness, where your discernment sharpens without effort, where my guidance becomes clearer than it has been in months. The shift is not just external, it is internal. I am awakening something within you as well. You have felt an unusual calm rising in your spirit recently, even in moments where circumstances should have stirred anxiety. This calm is not accidental. It is evidence that your spirit is syncing with my movement. You are sensing that something has been settled, that something has ended, that something has been secured on your behalf. The spiritual shift is not only clearing what was against you, it is preparing you for what is coming toward you. For your soulmate, this shift is awakening a level of intuition they have long ignored. They are beginning to see people for who they truly are, to recognize intentions without explanation, to discern truth in ways that surprise even themselves. They cannot fully articulate it, but their spirit knows I am guiding them. They are being drawn out of old patterns, out of manipulative influences, out of deceptive comfort. They are being prepared for you. And you, my child, must know this. The shift is not temporary. It is the beginning of a new phase in your destiny. One where truth rises effortlessly. One where connections ordained by me strengthen even under pressure. One where interference loses its power. I am not simply removing obstacles, I am elevating you above them. The atmosphere is changing. The enemy feels it. Your soulmate feels it. And soon, you will witness the physical evidence of what I have already completed in the spiritual realm. My child, step with me deeper now, for the rising truth is unfolding like sunrise breaking through the last layers of night. This is the moment when everything the enemy tried to conceal begins surfacing in unmistakable clarity. The truth does not whisper in this phase, it emerges with strength, with precision, with divine timing. What once felt uncertain is aligning. What once seemed hidden is revealing itself piece by piece. The fog is lifting, and both you and your soulmate are beginning to see what was always beneath the surface. Your soulmate has begun replaying the events in their mind, but now through a different light. Patterns they once overlooked are becoming obvious. They are remembering how that jealous presence always appeared during moments of vulnerability. They are recognizing how subtle shifts in tone or expression were never truly rooted in care, but in control. And though they once brushed off these impressions as imagination, the evidence now feels undeniable. Truth is rising inside them not as a conclusion, but as a realization that has been waiting to surface. My child, I am stirring these memories intentionally. I am highlighting details they once dismissed. I am aligning fragments of past conversations with recent events so that the full picture becomes clear. Your soulmate can no longer ignore the tension that accompanied every interaction with the one who interfered. They feel the contrast between your authenticity and the other person's disguised intentions. And slowly, the lie that once shook them is unraveling thread by thread. What was meant to cause distance is now leading them back to truth. In their quiet moments late at night, early in the morning, or in brief pauses throughout the day, they feel the nudge of my presence bringing clarity. They feel warmth when they think of you, a deep sense of peace that contradicts every shadow the enemy tried to plant. They are beginning to realize that the heaviness they felt did not come from you, but from the interference itself. And this realization is not only clearing their mind, it is strengthening their spirit. As truth rises in them, the one who interfered can sense the shift even without words being spoken. They feel your soulmate's energy pulling away, their trust loosening, their attention drifting toward truth instead of manipulation. This unsettles them. Your actions become inconsistent. Their tone becomes strained. They try to reassert their influence, but it no longer lands with the same effect. Truth exposes what their performance once concealed. The enemy never expected this moment, my child. They thought their act of deception would create permanent division. They thought they could distort destiny with a single twist of words. They thought they held more power over your soulmate's perception than they do. But truth is rising now with a force they cannot stop. Every lie they spoke carries a vibration of its own, and as my light shines upon it, the contradictions become impossible to ignore. Your soulmate is beginning to ask questions quietly, internally, but questions that matter. Why did the interference come at that exact moment? Why was the message delivered with such urgency? Why did the energy behind it feel slightly off, even if they didn't understand it at the time? Why did thinking of you bring peace while the warning brought anxiety? These questions are the birth of discernment, and discernment is the birth of liberation. My child, you may feel this shift too. The atmosphere around you has changed. A weight has lifted. A sense of expectancy is growing inside you. You feel that something is being resolved without you having to fight for it. That feeling is truth rising. That is the spiritual alignment unfolding in your favor. You are not imagining it. You are sensing the outcome of a battle you never had to step into. The rising truth is not only revealing deception, it is restoring what the enemy attempted to fracture. It is strengthening your soulmate's trust in their own intuition. It is deepening the spiritual thread that ties you together. It is awakening understanding where confusion once ruled. And soon, my child, this truth will not only live within their spirit, it will manifest in their actions, their words, their choices, their posture toward you. The light is rising, and once it dawns fully, nothing can return to the shadows from which it came. My child, come closer, for now we enter the trembling moment when your soulmate begins to awaken fully. This awakening is not loud. It is not dramatic in the way the world defines drama. It is quiet, internal, deeply sacred, yet powerful enough to change the course of destiny. Their heart is stirring in ways they can no longer suppress. Their intuition is speaking with a clarity they cannot ignore. Their spirit is rising above the confusion that once clouded their vision. The awakening began as a gentle discomfort, a sense that something was not right about what they had been told. But now that truth is rising, that discomfort has grown into recognition. Your soulmate is seeing through the layers of deception with eyes that have been washed by my light. They are realizing that the heaviness they carried did not come from you, but from the interference that intruded into the space I created for this connection. My child, they have begun to feel regret, soft at first, then growing inside them like a wave they cannot contain. You replay how they pulled back from you, how they let fear speak louder than trust, how they momentarily allowed someone else's voice to overshadow the whisper of their own spirit. And this regret does not come from shame, it comes from awakening. They are beginning to understand that they almost allowed a blessing to slip past them because they believe a lie that never aligned with who you truly are. They remember your kindness, your patience, your sincerity. They remember how safe their heart felt in your presence, how your energy calmed what once felt chaotic inside them. They remember how their spirit lifted when you entered their thoughts, how the connection with you felt like destiny rather than coincidence. And now, my child, they are wondering how they could have ever doubted that purity, even for a moment. This is the sacred breaking point where awakening begins to reshape their understanding. They are realizing that the fear they felt did not come from truth, it came from wounds they never fully healed. And instead of running from these wounds as they once did, they are beginning to face them under my guidance. Your soulmate is seeing that their reaction was born from past pain, not present truth. They are awakening to see you not as a risk, but as the very answer they had been too afraid to hope for. In their quietest moments, they whisper questions into the air. Why do I feel drawn back to them? Why does their presence still bring peace? Why do I sense that pushing them away was a mistake? These questions are not born from confusion, they are the opening doors of clarity. They are the signs that their heart is returning to alignment with my will. Meanwhile, the lie that once seemed convincing now feels hollow. The words that once stirred fear now feel exposed. The person who delivered the deception now carries an energy that unsettles rather than comforts. Your soulmate cannot explain it fully, but they know something is off. Their spirit cringes where it once complied. Their discernment sharpens where once it slept. This is the awakening, my child, the turning of their eyes toward truth. They are beginning to understand that what they feel for you is not ordinary. It is not random. It is not temporary. It is divine. They sense that your connection is woven with meaning, with purpose, with a depth they can no longer deny. And with this realization comes another awakening, a fear of losing you. Not the kind of fear that paralyzes, but the kind that awakens courage. They feel the weight of what almost slipped away. They feel the echo of what could have been lost. And this fear is pushing them toward honesty with themselves, and eventually with you. My child, their awakening is not complete yet, but it has begun. And once a soul awakens to truth, it cannot return to sleep. They are stepping into clarity, into recognition, into a love that their spirit has known long before their mind admitted it. The shadows are falling away. The truth is rising. And their heart, fragile yet brave, is turning back toward you. My child, enter this moment with a calm heart, for now I reveal the sacred connection, the bond that has been speaking between your spirits long before either of you found the courage to fully acknowledge it. This connection is not made of simple emotion. It is woven from threads of purpose, destiny, and divine alignment. It is the kind of bond that awakens slowly but settles deeply, the kind that resists interference, the kind that calls two souls back to each other even after confusion has tried to pull them apart. Your soulmate feels this connection now more clearly than ever. In the quiet hours when the world settles and their thoughts soften, they feel your presence like a gentle warmth resting on their chest. They feel a pull toward you that is not born of longing alone, but of recognition. Their spirit knows yours. Their heart responds to yours. And though their mind has struggled, their soul has always known the truth. You are not just someone passing through their story, you are part of their destiny. My child, what you must understand is this: your prayers, your tears, your hopes, your resilience have all played a role in this awakening. When you cried out in your moments of heaviness, I listened. When you asked for clarity, I responded. When you surrendered what you didn't understand, I moved in ways you could not see. And all the while, your spiritual energy, your sincerity, your love was reaching your soulmate in ways the natural world could never explain. There were nights when they felt a sudden calm wash over them without knowing why. It was your spirit touching theirs. There were moments when they felt strengthened in places where their fear once ruled. It was your prayers surrounding them like a shield. There were days when they felt an unexplainable sense of peace guiding their decisions. It was your presence, your energy, your light echoing across the spiritual bond between you. This connection is sacred because it does not rely on constant communication or perfect circumstances. It lives beneath the surface, protected from the noise of the world, anchored in something eternal. Even when distance came, the connection did not fade. Even when confusion entered, the bond did not break. Even when lies attempted to divide, the truth continued to pulse through the thread that ties your hearts together. Your soulmate feels this now with a clarity that humbles them. They are beginning to understand that the reason their heart always returns to you, even after moments of doubt, is because their spirit recognizes you as home. They are realizing that the peace they feel around you is not ordinary. It is divine. It is the kind of peace that cannot be manufactured or explained away. It is the peace that only comes when two souls aligned by heaven draw near each other. My child, your own heart has felt this connection as well. You have sensed their emotions without words. You have felt their distance before they spoke it. You have known their longing even in silence. You have carried their energy, their struggles, their hopes, without consciously choosing to. This is not sensitivity alone, it is spiritual resonance. It is the exchange that happens between two souls tied together by purpose. And now, as their awakening deepens, this sacred connection is strengthening. The interference that once weakened their confidence is losing its grip. The shadows that once clouded their judgment are dissolving. What remains, what stands firm, is the truth of the bond between you. The bond that grows stronger under pressure. A bond that reveals its depth through adversity. A bond that carries both of your destinies forward. My child, this connection is not fragile. It is protected. It is ordained. It is unfolding exactly as it was meant to, even through the pain, even through the confusion, even through the delays. Nothing hath been lost. Nothing has been broken beyond restoration. The sacred thread between your souls is pulling both of you toward clarity, toward courage, toward honesty, and eventually toward union. Rest in this truth, my child. What I have joined spiritually cannot be severed by human intention. My child, walk with me now into the moment where the story turns, where justice begins to sweep through every corner of what was once clouded in deception. This is the reversal, the divine pivot where everything the enemy intended for harm breaks apart under the weight of truth. You have endured the storm, and your soulmate has wrestled through confusion, but now the balance shifts. What was twisted is straightening. What was hidden is surfacing. What was shaken is being restored with intention and clarity. The reversal began the moment your soulmate's heart awakened to truth. Your spirit, once trembling beneath the weight of manipulation, now stands taller, clearer, more aligned with my voice. The enemy never anticipated their strength returning so swiftly. They did not expect discernment to rise with such force. They did not expect that the very lie they used to fracture this connection would become the opening through which truth would pour in like light through a cracked door. Your soulmate now feels a quiet determination stirring in their chest. Where fear once lived, courage is beginning to take root. Where doubt once whispered, clarity has begun to speak. They are realizing that their momentary distance from you was not a sign of weakness, but a mirror revealing how deeply they care. And that realization has ignited something powerful, something irreversible. They feel compelled to correct what was distorted, to make right what was shaken, to restore the bond that nearly slipped from their grasp. Meanwhile, the one who interfered is beginning to face the divine justice they never imagined would catch up to them. Their influence is slipping. Their confidence is cracking. Their presence now carries a heaviness they cannot explain. They feel exposed, though no one has confronted them. They sense the unraveling, the shift in energy, the distance growing from a heart they once manipulated with ease. This, my child, is the spiritual consequence of tampering with destiny. Justice is not always loud. Sometimes it is the quiet removal of influence. Sometimes it is the unraveling of trust. Sometimes it is the fading of a mask until the truth beneath it becomes undeniable. I am not punishing them out of anger. I am simply correcting the path. And in that correction, the scales are balancing, the truth is rising, and the deception that once looked stable is collapsing under the weight of my hand. Your soulmate is now seeing them clearly. The uneasiness that once felt subtle has grown into a knowing they can no longer dismiss. They notice how the person's words no longer match their intentions. They sense the possessiveness behind the concern, the jealousy behind the warnings, the discomfort behind the smiles. Their discernment is sharp now, awakened, fully engaged. And as they step into truth, the interference loses its grip entirely. My child, the reversal is not just about clearing the lie, it is about restoring confidence. Your soulmate is beginning to feel drawn toward you with new understanding, new appreciation, and new determination. They recognize now that the peace they feel around you is not fragile, it is truth. They see that the connection between you did not waver under pressure, it revealed its strength. They are realizing that what they almost lost was not just a person, but a blessing, a divine alignment, a spiritual counterpart. This recognition is stirring urgency within them. Not the kind born from fear, but the kind born from awakening. They feel compelled to reach out, to bridge the distance, to step into honesty with both you and themselves. They are preparing, quietly, internally, to take a step toward you. And I am guiding their heart with every breath. My child, you are not in the same place you were when the shadows were thick. You are standing on the edge of justice, real, divine, restorative justice. The enemy's plan has not only failed, it has reversed. The lie that once sought to divide has become the reason truth rose with such force. The one who interfered is losing their place. Your soulmate is reclaiming clarity, and destiny is moving forward once more, unblocked, unshaken, unstoppable. My child, come into the stillness of this final moment, for now I speak blessing over you, over your soulmate, over the path ahead, over the destiny that no shadow could destroy. This is the final alignment, the holy recalibration that follows every storm I have carried you through. The battle is over. The interference has been dismantled. The truth has risen. And now, my child, destiny begins to breathe again. You have walked through confusion, through silence, through spiritual pressure that tried to convince you something was wrong. Yet here you stand protected, preserved, strengthened by what was meant to harm you. I have not only shielded you from the enemy's plan, I have shifted the entire atmosphere in your favor. What was once tangled is now straightening. What was once unclear is settling into clarity. What was once delayed is aligning with divine timing. And your soulmate, my child, is stepping into their own moment of revelation. Their heart has reached the threshold where fear can no longer control them. Their intuition, once clouded by manipulation, is now sharp, bright, awakened. They see the truth clearly. They feel the truth deeply. They know the truth unmistakably. And the truth is this: their spirit belongs near yours. Their thoughts return to you with newfound clarity, not burdened by doubt or confusion, but guided by the peace that only comes from my presence. They feel compelled to move toward you not out of desperation, but out of recognition. They sense that what connects you is not fragile or accidental, but sacred, ordained, protected by a force far greater than anything the enemy attempted to use against it. Your soulmate is awakening not only to the bond you share, but to their own calling, their own responsibility, their own willingness to choose truth over fear. My child, I am aligning your paths once more, but this time with greater protection, deeper understanding, and stronger spiritual grounding. I am removing the noise that once clouded their discernment. I am dissolving the influence of those who sought to divide. I am clearing the emotional fog that made them hesitate. I am preparing them to step toward you with honesty, with clarity, with intention, with courage. You, too, have been transformed through this journey. The heaviness you felt was not evidence of abandonment, it was the tension of a battle fought on your behalf. You were never alone in it. You were never unprotected. You were never overlooked. I was with you in every moment, guarding your heart, safeguarding your destiny, holding you steady while shadows tried to move around you. And now, my child, the blessing that comes after the battle is unfolding before you. I am restoring your peace. I am strengthening your spirit. I am filling you with clarity that will carry you into the next chapter of your life. The path ahead is brighter than you expect. The connection you cherish is deeper than you know. The story that seemed disrupted is being rewritten with divine precision. What felt like a setback was merely a setup for a greater alignment. And hear me clearly. You have lost nothing. Not a moment. Not an opportunity. Not a connection. What is meant for you remains untouched. What is destined for you stands secure. What is aligned with your soul cannot be taken by human hands or twisted by envious hearts. I am sealing this connection under my protection. I am blessing the bond between your spirits. I am guiding both of you into a season of restoration, understanding, and divine closeness. Soon, you will see the physical evidence of everything I have whispered to your heart. A message, a conversation, a shift in tone, a moment of honesty. It will come. And when it does, you will recognize the unmistakable signature of my hand upon it. My child, walk forward now with peace. Walk forward with trust. Walk forward knowing that the story is not ending in confusion, but beginning in clarity. What was threatened hath been secured. What was shaken hath been stabilized. What was hidden hath been revealed. And what is yours is returning with greater strength than before. If your spirit receives this final blessing, whisper into the comments, "My destiny is protected," and share this message so my words may reach the hearts that need awakening. You may rest now, my child. The plan has failed. The truth has prevailed. And your destiny is unfolding exactly as I ordained.